today's episode is all about is all about leadership. All right. Obviously, as I say all the time, this is a success blueprint. The goal is to bring you the blueprint to be successful in any manner, way, shape, or form, financial, education-wise, or business opportunity, business career, entrepreneurship. And I believe that leadership is probably one of the very key and most important pieces of ownership of any business, of entrepreneurship, of developing yourself as well. And today we're going to get a chance to talk about leadership principles as defined by the Marine Corps. And again, I'm not saying I'm a Marine Corps show. I am a Marine myself. But what I am saying is just that, like I said in the last video about leadership, in the last podcast about leadership, the Marine Corps has leadership down. They have leadership down 100%. And I believe that a lot of people would learn so well from Marine Corps leadership. And I'm not just saying that you have to go to boot camp and become a Marine in order to learn and practice Marine Corps leadership. That's not true at all. And there's a lot of people out there who practice a lot of these things. But a huge reason why so many individuals struggle with building and developing themselves as a leader is because they don't have the blueprint. It's like there's a blueprint to everything else out there. There's so many things, but it's so challenging. Now there are books out there that teaches you about leadership, right? Like, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership here. There's books on there. I've also got, let me see. That's actually crazy. I have a book called Power and Impact. That is an amazing book from the Harvard Business Review. It is about power and impact, not necessarily leadership. Agency Growth Machine. I've got a few. 12 Rules for Life. I've got a few out back here. But what I'm saying is, it's not as implemented into our lives growing up. Just like financial education isn't taught well, leadership education isn't taught well either. And so it's expected for you to just figure it out along the way. And so in the last leadership blueprint podcast episode that we recorded, we talked about the 14 traits of a leader, things that you can see within yourself, like your actual characteristics that you would have as a leader. And I told you guys to actually practice. I actually told you guys to practice and judge yourselves on a scale of 1 to 10. And we're actually going to do this again. Wow, I wrote that. I wrote that so nicely. That looks so good. Nice and even. Good job, Charming. Now, what the goal is as I go over today's leadership principles, the goal is for you to judge and measure yourself on just how well you live by these principles on the scale of 1 to 10. And as I said before, just measuring and judging your own skill or yourself and where you are will ultimately enhance your abilities to be able to follow these practices. Now, like I said before, leadership traits are what you have inside of you as like what your character is, like your decision-making skills, your judgment, your enthusiasm, and things like that. Principles are like the commandments that you live by. So today we're going to talk about the 11 leadership principles, which are the commandments of which a leader lives by. All right. These are things that they believe in and then things that they go and actually implement and do that makes them a leader. And so I can't wait to be able to share this list with you guys. As a reminder, I want to explain what Marine Corps leadership, or the Marine Corps defines leadership as. Leadership. All right. Once again, the Marine Corps defines leadership as the sum of the qualities of intellect, human understanding, and moral character that enables a person to inspire and to control a group of people successfully. Intellect, how smart you are. Are you technically proficient? All right. And also tactically proficient as well. And that's the Marine Corps piece. And then human understanding. Do you understand humans? That's a huge piece. Just understanding them, understanding the human experience, understanding their fallacies, and able to be able to forgive and also predict, humans' predictability. as well, and then your moral character. And that's how just you are, also how good you are at doing the right things and being honorable and courageous. And so it's the sum of intellect, human understanding, and moral character. And so today, let's talk about leadership principles. We're going to talk about each of them. And it would be behoove you to write these down as I go over them too, and also a little bit about what they mean. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory. I'm sure a lot of them you've probably heard before, but some of these are going to be might be a little bit new for a lot of people out there. And so I would encourage you in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day interactions with yourself and with your team, with your employees, with your contractors, with whomever the case is, even your family, right? Even your family, try to emulate these different principles in your day-to-day life, and I promise you, you're going to see yourself flourish like crazy. All right, so first, the very first principle is know yourself and seek self-improvement. And I love that one because it requires you to do two things, and it is a hard journey for a lot of people. Knowing yourself. You actually have to know yourself. You have to find yourself, work on looking for who you are, what you're good at, what you're bad at. There's so many people that don't know what they're good at, that don't know their strengths. They know their weaknesses, or at least they believe that they know their weaknesses. And a lot of those weaknesses just so happen to be limiting beliefs. There we go, limiting beliefs. All right, and so this principle of leadership should be developed by the use of leadership traits. And so that's why this is kind of first. And those traits that we talked about the last time are where you should be able to find yourself. And so based on those 14 leadership traits that we talked about last time and how you judged yourself on those leadership traits should allow you to understand how to know yourself as a leader, and then also how to seek self-improvement. So evaluate yourself by using leadership traits to determine your strengths and weaknesses. All right. And that's honestly one of the best things. I think that one thing that I'm consistently doing, and it allows me to continue pushing and driving in like business and things like that, is just that when you know yourself and you know what you're good at, you know your strengths, it's obviously very easy for you to play off of your strengths. You start to find your value proposition, which is things that make you unique. But seeking self-improvement means that you're consistently always moving and growing. You're always pushing. You cannot quit something if you're consistently seeking self-improvement. And I want to talk about this, especially if you're going to the business of entrepreneurship in any way. If you are, as leadership is really challenging. And the downside is that people end up blaming their lack of success on the business or on the people around them. Your lack of success is not due to any of those people. Might the people around you be, catty or full of drama or whatever the case is? They might be. And it might make it very hard. It might choke you. Right? It might be choking and stunting your growth and your progression. Right? Is the business model that you're part of great? Maybe not. It might not be the most successful. But can you still improve and grow? You can. You can. And if you know your strengths and weaknesses are, I promise you can. If obviously that stuff is affecting how you perform and how successful you are, maybe you have a weakness of falling into a trap, of listening to your limiting beliefs, listening to other people, just falling right in line, and you don't understand yourself. But if your strength was to take initiative, have physical, mental courage to walk straight in and deal with the stuff regardless, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. A lot of times in business is not easy. I mean, most of the time it's not easy. And a lot of times people don't want to work around the people and network with people that you do. But does that mean that you should allow your business to falter or your success to be limited? No. Know yourself, know who you are, know what you're good at, and let that shine. I see it a lot of times in my business with a lot of people. This client didn't do this and this client didn't do that. Well, obviously, you need to figure out what part of that you have and change it and then fix it for the next time. And so for me, because I am consistently seeking self improvement, I'm always working to improve myself and develop myself, which is why I'm able to be so great. And there's a lot of people who start off in business and they don't. They don't have goals to grow. And that's how I know that this book here, Agency Growth Machine, is great about leadership. And it specifically talks about how I actually wanted to kind of find it. I wanted to find it, but I'm not going to find it. Offer it. But it specifically talks about how your middle 60 percenters, right? You got your top 20% of your team, right? Those, you got those leaders, you got those individuals who like you can count on, blah blah blah. You got the bottom 80%, the bottom 20%. We're just gonna not talk about them. We're talking about the middle 60%, about how those middle 6% are there because they never intended to grow in the first place. They never intended to actually truly never intended to grow. Maybe they said it, but they didn't actually believe it and they didn't truly intend on it. And so you can always tell if your followers, if your team, your employees, or whomever it is, are learning about themselves and seeking self-improvement just by asking them, hey, let me see your goal chart. Let me see let me see your goal chart. If they don't have one, they're not consistently working on growing. If it's not written down somewhere and that they're tracking it, is not happening. And that's probably why they're in the middle 60%. And they're never going to crack out of it unless they do have some of that vision. So know yourself and seek self-improvement. Number one leadership principle that's going to help you out with everything else as well as those leadership traits that we talked about. All right. Now, according to the Marine Corps, number two, be technically and tactically proficient. Well, tactically is mostly speaking of your knowledge about the field, and technically is knowing the knowledge in the books. And so obviously when it comes to the Marine Corps, tactical proficiency is like out in, the field. like actually being a Marine doing the good old power stuff, right? But as far as your business is still there, because in your business, you also do have to go out in the field in whatever way, shape, or form. So it still applies. I just want to make sure we made that connection. So be technically and tactically proficient. This is a person who knows their job thoroughly. They are experts at their job, and they possess a very wide range of a wide field of knowledge. And so, before you can lead, you must be able to do the job. I'm going to say this: in my business, I came into business because I love leading others. I love leading other leaders. It was something I was fantastic at in the Marine Corps. It was also something I was great at before the Marine Corps. I almost got a milk stash, a coffee stash. It's something I was great at before the Marine Corps, and it's something I'm going to always be great at. It is a one skill that I have developed and mastered, right? Is that I know how to lead, and I know how to lead leaders very successfully. And now, whenever I started in business here, helping people learn about how money works and, learning about different types of investments and insurances, estate planning and asset management and debt and all the rest of the good stuff, like all the things that I've learned, doing that, and then also teaching other people how to do that and how to start their businesses and how to help other people do the same thing, right? There's two whole pieces: financial education and teaching people about, business. I honestly got started, and my entire focus was to help build leaders. Unfortunately, I did not master my field and my craft. I did not master helping clients and helping families out with that. So when I very first started, I wasn't doing the best with clients, and that's fine. I wasn't focusing much on that aspect, on the financial education with clients aspect. I was mostly building these leaders. But the thing I noticed was just that my income wasn't matching because I hadn't even focused on developing and building myself and doing the actual job, doing the actual work of my business and what my business actually does. I kind of started in business wanting to build other leaders, but I did not actually do the work to help the families and build up my knowledge there. And so my income definitely showed. And so it wasn't until I realized that when I was like, wait, I need to take a step back because I think these leaders that I'm building up, they're also probably falling into the same situation where they're not helping families, but they are developing leaders. And we are a great leadership team. And so that was when I had to retract. And I was like, I need to actually start like learning my actual job part, the financial education and building and working with these families and clients and business owners. And when it's the second that I did that was the second that everybody else that I was building up and leading and developing in my team, in my organization, the other business owners and things like that, they all started to also make income that matched their level of leadership because they finally became tactically proficient. They finally became proficient in the field, not just technically. We can learn all the pieces. We can learn everything about how to run our business and how to help a family out. But if we're not actually in the field doing the work and becoming technically proficient, it's going to be very challenging. And I cannot lead others unless I know how to do it myself. So I would definitely encourage you guys to ensure that you know how to do the job before you start to lead somebody else. It makes a lot of sense. But when it comes down to it, there's so many other things that get in the way, especially if you're a person who cares about people so much that you want to help teach them and help them learn and help build them up. All right, next, a leader must make a conscious effort to observe his followers, his employees, his team, so on and so forth, and how they react to different situations. This brings us to number 3. Know your people and look out for their welfare. I'm going to tell you right now, in business, that does not happen often. There's not many people who care about your welfare. Especially if everybody's independent contractors or whatever the case is, or you yourself are a business owner, it can be very challenging a lot of times. We have so many different things going on. You've got to look at your numbers, and you got to be improving things. You got to be at this location, then that location. You got all these different things going on. If you're an entrepreneur, and you're a newer entrepreneur, you're trying to learn yourself. You're trying to build up your own leadership skills. You're trying to build up your own entrepreneurship skills. You're trying to build up your own ownership and all the rest of these different things. You're trying to take care of all this stuff. And taking the time to learn about your people and looking out for the welfare, a lot of times get placed on the backside. You know, the Marine Corps says, and I love it. Oh man, I love it too. I love it. This again, the Marine Corps has leadership down easy. You've got mission accomplishment, and you've got welfare, employee welfare, fire welfare, team welfare, whatever the case is. Mission accomplishment and welfare of your organization. Which one comes first, or which one is most important? Getting the mission done at all costs, or making sure you take care of your team? Because you can't just do both 100%. Now it's like spinning plates. Really, all of these are like spinning plates. If you've got like sticks and things like that, you're trying to spin these plates. You got plates on your fingers and plates on your head and plates on your shoulders and on your toes and your knees or whatever the case is. The plates might all come to a perfect balance for like a split second, but you're always going to be. But the reason why is because it's not because you're just standing there waiting for it all to finally mellow out. What's happening is when you're spinning these plates in order to get them all to balance, you're making micro adjustments each time. You might not see the plate change, but you're making micro adjustments just to get the plate to stay balanced. Very micro adjustments. Sometimes you might need to make a massive adjustment, right? But it's happening all the time. And so the same thing goes for mission accomplishment and looking out for the welfare, where you have to be able to balance it perfectly. The best leaders will. The best leaders are not going to be the ones who solely focus on that. The best leaders are not going to be the ones who solely focus on this. It's not going to happen. But a balanced great leader can be able to balance the plates of both. And so looking out for the welfare is extremely important. If you understand like how they react to these different situations, where let's say that you have someone and let's say that you're in an agency model where you have these different employees on your team and your business that obviously like you are helping out. Let's say that they're not able to close business as successfully, right? And whatever the case is, let's say that they're working with a company to be able to provide some kind of marketing or something like that, and they're not able to close as successfully, and they have it back to back to back to back to back. You need to know how they're going to react to that. You need to know that. You only need to look out for the welfare. Also look out for the positive things. There are some people out there who, I'll be honest, who have mental health illnesses and things like that. Very similar to like me. I've had them before. Where if I have the highest high, I am terrified to lose that high and come down. Right? I'm then terrified to go and do something else and fail the next time. And if I do that, unfortunately, like I feel like I'll never get back up. And so when I hit a high, a lot of times, that's it for me. Not anymore, because I know that about myself. But that's how it honestly used to be. If I would have an amazing week, month, or whatever the case is, that's it. I don't want to go back down. And it sometimes takes a leader to understand that about them, to understand and say, hey, congratulations, this is awesome. I'm going to make sure that we keep you are feeling right now going, even though you might have a dip in your progress, or you might end up having a lack of success or something like that, right? Like knowing your troops, knowing your people, your team, looking out for their welfare is so very important. So very important. I mean, if your team is struggling with a couple of different things, you need to be in a position to be able to help them out, take care of them. That's something that I love about my business, is this, that I do know that a lot of people that I meet and come across, they do need a lot of help. I have one individual that I work with, that I teach. He's not necessarily on my team, but he wants to be able to make enough money to where he can just freely give money to people on the side of the street that need it freely. And he wants to be able to do it a lot, and then also kind of make a bigger charity out of it, but just kind of start off, and that's great, right? And that's something that I want to be able to do all the time, is be able to make enough money to, when people are just getting started, building up their business, how can I help you out in any way, shape, or form, whether it's money or what time, or whatever the case is. All right, next, keep your personnel informed. I think that's also very important. You keep them in the dark, and it takes away the options to think for themselves. If you don't keep them informed, it takes away the option. That's a controlling leader right there, where you're not giving them information. Whether it's positive or negative information, you need to give them information. Keep them informed. It's like a relationship. It's like a relationship. If you are in a relationship and you go and, let's say you cheat on your partner, you should tell them. If you go and you find out something negative about yourself, or whatever the case is, that affects your partner, let them know, because it's controlling if you don't. You're taking away the option to choose. If you didn't cheat on them and you come and let them know, you're saying, hey, I'm giving you an option. I did this. I'll be a man or woman of my word. And I cannot say that you have much character if you went out and cheated. But what I can say is, at least that part, you had the moral courage to come and let them know, right? So if that's the case, you then present them the option to say whether or not they want to stay with you. And that, if you take that option away from them, that's controlling. So don't be a controlling leader. Promote efficiency and morale. A leader should inform their command or personnel of all the happenings and give reasons why things are to be done. I understand, like, not every time will you have the time to sit down, lead in the and say, hey, here's why everything's happening. But if you can inform them on the front end and be proactive instead of reactive, right? If you can explain things that are kind of coming down the pipeline, things that are happening, why you're doing things, teach them, and the off time, whenever it's in the field time, they won't have any questions. If before a meeting, let's say that you're sitting down with a training appointment to show this new person in your team, in your organization, how things are run. If you brief them on the front end, they won't have to ask during those meetings and those very crucial moments, they won't have to ask why. And a lot of times that's when we get aggravated as leaders. So I'm informed. So keep your personnel informed. This is a super easy one next. Set the example. Very easy. Everybody knows this. A leader who shows professional competence, courage, and integrity sets high personal standards for himself before he can rightfully demand it from others. You have to. You have to. And it's so cliche, but so simple, so cliche and simple of a strategy, of a principle, of something to live by. But I'm going to be honest with you, a lot less of us actually do it than we think. And it's always in those critical, high stress moments where that shows that you don't actually set the example. And it shows in one of two ways. It shows either by one, you actually not setting the example and doing what you're supposed to do in those critical moments, right? So let's say that you're on a battlefield and it's time for everybody to do whatever the case is, and you honestly, and everything like hits the fan. Your immediate reactions will show whether or not you always set the example. Maybe sometimes you fake it when it's not in those critical moments. Maybe sometimes you're just telling them, hey, in these critical moments, do this. But in that critical moment, what you do, if you don't set the example, if you don't have that competence, that courageousness, and that integrity, it's not going to happen. So that's one way you can check to see if you're actually setting an example. And I've seen that a lot of times where it does come to that high stress situation. But also too, in those high stress situations, if your team does not show and does not implement that stuff that you expect and demand of them, it's because you don't actually set the example as well. So you can tell that you're not setting an example by, in those high stress situations, you don't, or your team doesn't. If your team doesn't, it's just because, one, you haven't practiced enough with them, and two, you don't actually set the example all of the time for them to immediately snap right into exactly what to be able to do, how to act, how to react, how to think, how to feel. Next, ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. So, I mean, obviously that's all about explaining, issuing the task, and making sure that's accomplished, right? You must give clear and concise orders that cannot be misunderstood, And then by close supervision, ensure that these orders are properly executed. If you're leading a team of volunteers, leading what's called a volunteer army, people who don't have to work for you or don't have to work with you, this is something that's very crucial. Because if there is a task, if there is something that you need to get done, that your team needs to get done for their development and for their betterment, you have to understand that you must not leave any room for error in the instruction that you're giving and the education that you're giving to them. And then you also need to supervise, not micromanage, supervise, return, right? Your best leverage that you have as a leader, and I learned this from a gentleman, Kevin McGinnis. Your best leverage that you have for a situation like that is going to be your buy-in. So the buy-in that your team has of what you are telling them, what you're teaching them, what you're giving them. And then also their commitment. So they need to have that buy-in, and then also they get a commitment from you. And you do that, and it's easy. Say, hey, I'm going to follow up in a week, and I want to see how this went for you, how successful this was for you, right? And I'm going to hold you to it, and then you supervise. You just make, hey, by the way, here's something to be able to help you out. Here's another tool and resource to help you out with whatever task this is, all right? And then make sure it's accomplished. Train your people as a team. Train your people as a team. As a leader, you must insist on teamwork from your team, regardless of whether they are independent or not. Train them as a team. If you train, play, and operate as a team, you must do that. Be sure that they each know their responsibilities within the team framework. There are going to be so many people who have different strengths, different weaknesses, and if you have a team of these individuals, train them together. not individually. It can be very easy to work with all of them individually and say, hey, here's all of your weaknesses. Here's your weakness. Let's build on that. Here's your weakness. Let's build on that. Here's your weakness. Let's build on that. But if you train them as a team, you show them each their strengths and their weaknesses, they can start to work together and play on their strengths so that as a team, you're having total success because everyone's playing on their strengths and covering the weaknesses of each other. But then they can also see and work on and practically apply the weaknesses or building on the weaknesses from each other and from yourself. So make sure that you train them as a team, not just individually. They should truly understand their position within the team. Hey, I'm the team's expert on this. I have been here for this amount of time, so I have this knowledge and this experience of the history of where we came from. And I'm brand new, and so I bring a fresh take from a different industry. Whatever the case is, train them as a team. Next, make sound and timely decisions. This is where we talked about your decisiveness, your judgment, and your justice. The last leadership blueprint podcast episode, where the leader must be able to rapidly estimate a situation and make a sound decision based on that estimation. It's very, very simple. Make sound and timely decisions. One of your best ways to practice some decision making is actually utilizing a lot of those like brain apps to help you enhance your brain and your thinking and your decision making skills and things like that. It's one of the best ways that you can do that. And get in on it, because it's very difficult to put yourself in high stress situations where you need to make those sound and timely decisions. But also another really great thing to do is also to practice how you play. So get in with a couple of your team, some other leaders as well, and start doing some role plays and case studies and practicing those manners as well. Next, and a lot of these are much easier. A lot of these stuff is like just much easier. I think a lot of the first initial ones are the ones with a lot of depth. But this one, develop a sense of responsibility among your subordinates. Develop a sense of responsibility among your subordinates. So give your people and your team, give them the opportunity for professional and personal development. Always give them an opportunity for it. Give them tasks and start delegating different authorities that allows them to start building mutual confidence within, like, back and forth, and respect between you and the subordinates. I think that's the one huge thing that a lot of people miss out, is that they consistently want to be the leader that everybody can come to, that everybody can trust, that everybody can. You must give them the ability and the opportunity to grow professionally. You must allow them and encourage them to become a leader and to develop professionally all the time. It's something that, like, right now, literally, I'm working on with some people on my team. So I just kind of had, one entire team get promoted up, and like, they're taking care of building up leaders now. Like, they have that space. But now I want to continue to build more leaders as well, where they're able to start to actually grow and build themselves and develop professionally. And so I'm assigning them different tasks, and I'm helping them see their worth and delegating authority to them, where people should be able to go and connect with them and talk to them, asking questions as well. That allows them to grow, right? If I'm the only one with all of the knowledge on my team, then I'm not knowledgeable. Because now my team is not effective. Because now everyone must come to me, and I'm not building any other leaders. Once they become a leader, they're still going to be coming to me, and their team will be coming to me. And so you must give them the opportunity to develop a sense of responsibility. Let them grow. Give them the space to fail. At least you'll be there as a cushion to not let them fall all the way on the ground and crack their skull. Right? Be there for them whenever they do fall, but give them the space to actually breathe and develop. And I'm not saying give them the space to let them be lazy. Give them the space to actually have some professional development, to build and bring mutual confidence, once again, between the leaders and the subordinates, between you and them, between them and their team and their people, so that way they can actually grow and develop. I think that's actually a huge one that a lot of leaders forget, that you don't have to be the only leader. and you can actually lead leaders and build leaders. Employ your team within its capabilities is next. Employ your team within their capabilities. So leader must have thorough knowledge of the tactical and technical capabilities of their team, right? So you must know who is an expert in every area and also who's great in the field as well. Successful completion of a task depends on how well you know your team's capabilities. I think that is very important, just because if you know all of that stuff, you know who's great at what, and then you can employ them, you can teach them, and you help them train each other. Right? If I know that on my team, I have an expert who is, I have a team member who is an expert in helping people out with, for instance, in my team, let's say that like we help out with like health insurance. I have someone who is an expert in long-term care planning. I want that person to be able to help teach and coach everyone else who's not as great at that piece. If I'm working within health insurance, if I'm working within like a CPA firm, and I know somebody is so much better at S corp tax planning, then I want that person I want to go to that person to assign tasks and allow them to then also teach other people, right? So ensure that you understand your team, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and also give them tasks based on that. And then last but not least, seek responsibility and take responsibility. Look for ways to actually have and create some challenging assignments for yourself. Look out for that. That's for your own professional development. And then you must use initiative and sound judgment when you're trying to accomplish that jobs that are required by your position, wherever you are. So look for those responsibilities and also take full responsibility and ownership of whatever it is, right? Anything that happens is because anything that, any negative thing that happens is your responsibility. Any positive thing that happens is because of your team. Any negative thing that happens is because of you. That's on you. That's your responsibility. Anything positive that's happening is because of your team. Remember that. Anything, I don't care if it's your own success. If you have success, that's because of your team. If you didn't have your team there, you might not have had the time and the space to go get that success. I'll say that. I'll say that right there. And if that hits you, what they say, I didn't really miss you. The shoe fits. Hey. So that is 11 leadership principles. Those are principles of which you as a leader should live by and adopt. Right? I hope that it was very thorough for you. Now remember, on all of those, you need to be judging yourself from 1 to 10 on how well you have that implemented in your day. And like I said before, just by judging yourself on it, you're already going to be setting yourself up for success, because you're going to start to know yourself and you're going to start to seek self-improvement. And so actually take care of that. Do that consistently, daily. Think about these. Write it down. Put it up on a wall or something like that, and think about them. Which ones, and I'd love to know in the comments below as well, which of these leadership principles are you best at and are you worst at? Which one do you need to improve on the most? I would love to know in the comment section down below. And also while you're scrolling down there, make sure to star this podcast if you're listening on Spotify. Also, if you are on Spotify, come over to YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, go over to Spotify. Check it out. It's really cool. Both of them are. But also, give a nice little subscribe. Give a nice little subscribe. It's free. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a beautiful day. Be very successful. And go out there and carry some leadership. I look forward to hearing all of you guys' success in the comment section down below. But with that, we'll see you guys later. Take good care of yourselves. Stop.